Hey y'all, welcome to the Honesty Circle, the safe space for heart to heart conversations rooted in faith, discussing mental health, navigating adulthood, and all the things in between. It's your host, Sierra Elise, and I hope you're taking care of not only your mental and spiritual, but your emotional and physical health so you can be your best self this week. Hey y'all, welcome back to the episode of the Honesty Circle. It's your host, Sierra Elise. How are y'all doing? I hope that you remember that God loves you because He does. Oh gosh, today's episode is a hefty one, I will say. I'll be really calling myself out, and so I know we are here to be open, honest, and vulnerable. So that's what we're doing. And today we're gonna be talking about self-compassion and how what you say to yourself matters. Okay, so before we even talk about compassion, about like yourself, right? We really need to think about what compassion is in general, just so you can understand how it's utilized for yourself, right? Like you don't know how to utilize for yourself unless you understand what compassion is in general and then also how it shows up for other people, right? So, what is compassion? So, when I was looking this up, y'all, these definitions were really not all over the place, but I think that each of them showed a different element. And so there really wasn't one that I feel like spoke to what I was trying to convey, if that makes sense. And not that I want to just like make up something, but I had you'll understand, but like I had like a type of definition that I had in my mind. And none of them exactly fit that. So I just pulled the ones that I thought really spoke to the essence of what I'm trying to get at here. Okay. So first we have the sympathetic consciousness of others' distress together with a desire to alleviate it. Another one says compassion implies pity coupled with the urgent desire to aid or to spare. And so when I looked up, like, just really understanding what compassion really looks like and what it is, because like I feel like you always know certain words. Like I know what compassion is and I can see it and I can recognize it, but putting words to it, I think that's what I was finding difficult. And so when I looked at distress, or I also looked up, I looked up distress, and then it was like misfortune with some words that I saw. I saw difficulty, problems, failure, mistakes. Just a lot of words were just like, I guess like negative things happening. And I really liked the one that really said where it talks about the desire to alleviate it. Because I saw another definition that said something about like taking action. And I think that's a part of compassion that really moves it from like the definition, like sympathetic or sympathy, right? How we move from sympathy of just feeling the emotions of someone to then for it to be compassion, in which we want to take an urge, or we end up actually taking action to alleviate, aid, assist in the problem, misfortune, like all of those things, right? So how does that look? What does that look like for you being compassionate to someone else? That looks like encouragement. That looks like helping. That looks like really just like being a support. I found that was some things that were coming up during my research. And also when I think about compassion, I think about someone being supportive in times of need, someone, like being by your side, like assisting, but then also not just assisting, but encouraging. And the type of words, when I think about someone being compassionate, like they're more positive and uplifting and inspiring. So when you think about how you're doing it with other people, that helps you out now. So now we're gonna look at it for ourselves, right? So when I was thinking about this was really what got me. This has been eating me up. And I'll explain how this all came about like later in the episode of like why I'm even talking about this. But this is what really was a question I had to ask myself. And I was like, okay, so if I think about how I respond to myself, my own difficulty, my own problems, my own misfortune, my own failure, my own mistakes. When I think about how I respond to myself, How would I feel if someone said that exact same thing to me? Honestly, like if you really think about it. How would you feel if how you respond to yourself when moments come up that you are not ideal and someone said those things to you directly, right? Because trust and believe, I would either have some choice words where I'm like, okay, you don't even know me, or two, that likely wouldn't be someone who was a friend. Like that's not a friend if that's how they're talking to you when like misfortune happens. Um and when I was thinking about this, like like I said, this is I'm talking from personal experience here. I'm not just saying this because, oh, I always have self compassion. Like, no, I don't. I always talk about things on the episode that I have lived through. I've lived through this, and I'm still living through this because I'm still having to check myself daily. And so listen, when I tell you I'm saying was because I'm still working on it, and it is not my current reality as strongly as it was before. But let me like fail a test in college. I'm telling myself that I'm dumb. Let me have difficulty understanding someone when they're trying to explain something to me. I'm calling myself either not nice words, dumb, like girl, like it's annoying, all of these negative things, right? Another example that happened recently was y'all know I do my mom's social media for her 3 page. Shout out her if you should follow her. But I had made a grammatical error in the post. So not just in the caption, but in the post. So then I had to go through and delete it and make another one. And I'm like, oh, girl, like, why are you so careless, right? I'm like calling myself names, like, I'm careless. All those, you know, the things, right? But then there's always just so many other like situations in which I found myself like, I am doing something wrong, or even if it was, um, like even if it was like like not just a mistake, but like even if it was unintentional, even if it was like giving my best effort, I still constantly like was talking negative to myself. And I think people always joke and see that I uplift other people, and I'm always like trying to correct other people in what they're saying. And I really had to check myself this past summer, and it's like, okay, but what are you actually saying to yourself? Like this past, not just the summer, I would say since my depressive episode or season, whatever I want to call it, time, like that was when it was at its height, like at its peak. And I think the summer's when I was like starting to get out of it. And so that's when I really had to think about myself, was like, how am what I'm saying speaking to or aiding in what I'm feeling and what it is I'm experiencing right now in my life? Like, especially when I was like going through a hard time, like what I was saying was, like not doing anything that was aiding, alleviating, assisting, and moving myself out of this current place, this current season. Nothing, I didn't give myself any level of compassion at all. I'm saying things that are actually tearing myself down. I'm saying things that are speaking against who I know that I am solely off a mistake. And so I had to really check myself, and it was like, why am I saying something to myself that, one, if I heard someone else say it to themselves, I would be like, oh, let's not say that. Because I'm like, y'all, if you don't know these things about me, but if you ask me my coworkers, like I'm always checking people when they say, like, they make a mistake, I'm like, oh, I'm so stupid. Like, I'm always like, you're not stupid. I'm always correcting, but it's like, why was I being able to help everybody else and making sure that they're correcting themselves, but then when it comes to myself, I'm letting it stay, like, oh, I'm so stupid, and I'm letting it stay, and I'm letting that be what it is. And so I really had to think to myself, how would I want someone to respond to me in this moment? I really had to, like, I was actively asking myself, if someone else were to be standing right here with the mistake. And I think that the other thing too is, I think sometimes we make mistakes that only we know about. And so it feels that we are like, you know, it feels heavier when it's by yourself. Like sometimes I think when you have other people around you, like they're able to like, oh no, it's fine. Like they brush it off or whatever. And so it helps out. But when you make a mistake where it's like only you know that you made that mistake, or it's a mistake that's behind closed doors, think about like, if you're living a Christian lifestyle, if you're choosing to follow Christ, if you are sinning or doing all of this, and like you're the only one that you're the only person that knows that you're doing these things. And not that you don't take action to try to stop sinning or stop trying to make mistakes or, try not to repeat the things that are happening. But at the same time, it's like, okay, while I don't want to repeat it, talking bad about myself is not going to make it better. It's not going to make me not repeat it again. It's not going to make me, try to shift my mindset and have a better outcome the next time. It actually is probably going to keep me in the same exact headspace that I was in before. And so why would I want to just stay in that same exact place? Why am I going to speak on myself in a way that keeps me here and not tries to no way does it help shift the situation at all. It actually makes it worse. So like I really had to think through this, right? And I thought another thing too, it's like I think we oftentimes think of self-love as like the answer for everything, right? And I was really having to deal with myself in a way that I'm like, I love myself though. Like I love myself. And so if I love myself, like why am I okay with speaking bad on myself? Like that doesn't make sense, right? Like it doesn't coincide, like they don't go together. And that's when I had to realize like it's not that I don't have self-love, because what is love? It's like valuing, it's understanding and seeing worth within yourself, right? That's what self-love is. But I realized it's like I can have self-love, but if I don't have it coupled with self-compassion, then it's not going to sustain anything past it, right? Because while I don't think my worth changes when I make mistakes, I'm still talking bad about myself in a way that isn't showing myself any form of sympathy or kindness, or anything along those lines. And so I really had to, like I said, I was dealing with myself about this. Like, if I love myself, why am I talking bad about myself? And then what am I missing? I was like really like wrestling. I'm like, what am I missing? Like I had to be missing something, because there is a disconnect in how I show up in the world, but then also how I'm talking to myself in my own head or behind closed doors. Like those have to align. They can't be two different things. And so I was like, okay, if I am going to be a person that is constantly uplifting other people around me, I'm going to constantly correct anyone I hear around me when they say anything bad about myself, then I need to start doing these things for myself. And that is when I decided I was going to make a change in how I'm speaking to myself. And not that it's an always thing. I think it just like happens in seasons for me. And so this is the season I was in was a season of like sadness, depression, anxiety. Like we're at an all-time high. And so in that time alone, that's when I should have been showing myself some form of compassion. So that way it gave me, like I said, when we talk about the definition of compassion, it's not just the sympathy for it. So it's not just the sympathy that I am sad, right? And that I'm feeling that I am depressed, right? But it is now the desire to alleviate it. It's now the desire to not let myself fester in this season of depression, in this moment of depression, right? Like I'm not letting this fester. I'm going to now take action. I'm going to now aid. I'm going to now to have the desire to alleviate it with how I'm speaking to myself. And your words really shift how you believe. And like I think it was I forgot how I've heard this before. I think it was like some speaker that came in my job where it's like it's like your words like shape your beliefs, and your beliefs shape your actions shape your habits. Like it basically like a trickle down effect, right? Where it's like, but it starts with how you're talking about yourself. It starts with your actions, and the actions of how you're speaking to yourself is an action. So like what action am I going to take? So that way the behavior, my reality, all of those things, it starts to trickle down the chain and overall help and aid in like what I'm experiencing. So that is really what self-compassion is, right? Like it's not just, oh, I see the value, I see the worth, I love myself. But it's really about the action, right? Like it's not just the sympathy aspect, right? Because if I wanted to sympathize with myself, cool, awesome, great. That's a great characteristic. There's a great trait. But if it's not coupled with the action element or the aiding or the alleviating element of compassion, then there's not compassion. You have to mix the two together, sympathy plus action, to like bring up compassion. And so you really have to think about it, right? Like, how would you, like I said, I had to ask myself, and I'm asking you, if someone were to talk to you that way, what would you want them to say? How would you want them to respond in that moment when you make a mistake? And that's how you should be talking to yourself. What would you say to somebody else? That's how you should be talking to yourself. If you heard someone else say that, would you feel kind of, ooh, don't say that? You probably would. So, like, let's make sure that what we are saying, and I'm talking to myself in this, is not tearing ourselves down. There are people in this world that will tear you down enough, and you don't need to be another person, another force tearing yourself down. There is enough in this world that is going to try to knock you down, and you don't need to be your own enemy. You don't. You should be the person that is lifting yourself up. You should be the person that, if no one else is ever around you, that you are rooting and cheering for yourself, no matter if you make a mistake, no matter if it's a success, no matter how big, how small. It's going to be okay, and talking about yourself is not going to make it any better. It's not going to fix the problem at all. So what are you going to do about it? So I do want to give some biblical context to some of this that we were talking about in this episode. So first is Colossians 3, chapter 3, verse 12 through 13. That one just kind of talks about, it's Paul talking to the church of Colossae, I think I said that correctly. And it's really a letter to them and talking about how they can go about living a Christian lifestyle. It's a really great book in the Bible. And one of the things it talks about in that verse is having compassion. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If there are any grievances against someone, forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. Okay, so, and coupling what is in Colossians, so in Matthew chapter 22, verse 39 specifically, but in this section, they are asking God, I forget who is talking. I know it's Matthew writing it, but I don't know who's speaking in that moment. But asking God, like, or Jesus, what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus replies, it's in verse 37, where it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second, after you love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, it says to love thy neighbor as yourself. And so this is something that was really sitting heavy with me too, because it's like, if I were to love someone, if I were to treat someone how I was treating myself, is that following that commandment? Is it following the commandment? Genuinely think about it. If you were to treat someone else the way that you treat yourself, would that person still want to be your friend? If the answer is no, or the answer is I don't know, then we need to rethink how we are treating ourselves. Because there's no way you're treating yourself worse than you would want a friend to treat you. Like, come on. So this is a real, like, I am so passionate about this because I have seen a shift when I have changed the way I speak about myself. And it's in the small things too, right? Like, it's not just the super big mistakes that happen. It's the small things. Like, make sure you're speaking back right on yourself in the small things. So yeah, that's it for this week's episode. I really hope that you guys take something from this. If you like anything, please make sure that you, one, reference the Bible verses. If you get a chance, pull up that Bible app or open that Bible. But then two, making sure you're sharing this with someone that you know is like doesn't show themselves the most compassion or show themselves the most love and care when it comes to mistakes. Like, this would be a great episode to send to them so that way they are encouraged. And yeah, so C's 2 cents this week is to analyze how you talk to yourself and ask yourself the question, If someone else were to treat you the way that you treat yourself, would that person be your friend? And then I want you to think about that this week. We want the answer to be yes. We want the answer to be like, "Oh my gosh, yes. I would love to have that person as my friend," right? But y'all can think about that or not. That is just my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. But thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. If you like anything that you heard, please feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We are now on TikTok with At the Honesty Circle. There's no underscore, but At the Honesty Circle on TikTok and on Instagram at the Honesty Circle with the underscore at the end. Thanks again so much for listening, and go conquer your week and be compassionate to yourself.